Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week we're doing something brand spanking new. Oh my God, it's fresh. You might not even have seen it yet, in which case, I'm sorry about that. But we're doing the 2025 debut from YouTuber turned director Chris Stuckmann. It's Shelby Oaks. Wow. And I'm going right into the IMDb logline so I don't forget. Here it is. A woman's obsessive search for her missing sister leads her into a terrifying mystery at the hands of an unknown evil.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
this movie. It was my idea to do this movie. And I'm sorry.
I feel like you dislike it way more than Sydney or I dislike it. I'm
I
pretty
don't hate
medium on
it.
it.
Exactly.
You
It's
just
just
really
so
wanted to really like
mid.
it.
It's so mid. It was so mid, which made it disappointing. But I think we
Um,
can have a really interesting conversation about it. Um, I liked it better when I saw it drunk. I'll say that. How about that?
that's interesting. I felt like I liked it better the second time because I knew what I was getting.
Here's the thing. I I
Hmm.
liked it. I liked it more the first time because we were all together watching it
Hmm.
and I was the only person in theater like watching it this time. And
Mm.
uh I had a good time both times, but like I knew what I was getting into like the second time, but like the first time I was like this movie like builds tension really well, it sets
Hmm.
tone really well. Like it's a little kind of all over the place, but it's this guy's like first directorial debut and he's like just a film reviewer. So like
Yeah. I think I
Well,
just got, well, you go first, then I have a whole spiel.
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say just a film reviewer. I would say, from what I read two interviews with him with, I think, the Hollywood Reporter. And one was after it premiered at Fantasia Fest last year. And the finished cut is like a little different from that because after that, Neon gave him like $1 million to do some reshoots. And so they like cut
Just a
11 minutes from
million
the
dollars
film.
different.
Just well, they like all this stuff with the dogs is like new from that cut because they like flew in dogs from Siberia and Russia and blah blah blah.
Interesting. I was wondering what changed. Keep going.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I can tell you more about that. But s- so he like they had that version and then they cut it down a lot. But he said he's like been making horror shorts and stuff his whole life. He never
Yeah,
wanted to be like a critic. That was just like something that he was doing to be like in the
because
business
he
of like
loves
thinking about
the
films and talking about films and blah 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 blah
he
blah.
loves the industry. Yeah.
Right, and becoming like a big YouTube critic is what gave him the opportunity to like actually have any sort of funding to do this. It's how he got like into the spaces where he was at Fantasia or I don't know if it was at Fantasia Fest, something where he was like talking to somebody else in the industry and they were like, "Are you working on anything?" And he just like started pitching it and like that's how it snowballed from
And that's how
there.
Mike Flanagan found out about him is
Yeah,
through his reviews.
because he like loved Oculus or whatever and was like a big
Yeah.
champion of Oculus. And then they just like made friends and like would trade scripts and stuff over the years. And then after the first cut of this, Mike Flanagan was like, "Is there any way I can be involved? Like, what can I do?" And that's when they like started collaborating. So I think it's one of those things where this is always what he wanted to be doing, but that was like the avenue because it was like very small indie.
Totally.
And then because he had 2 million YouTube subscribers, he was able to be like, crowdfunding like Kickstarter. That's how it's the biggest Kickstarter campaign for a horror movie or whatever in history. But it's still like a very small budget indie film. So I don't know. I think he was kind of saying, it's like tricky. I think people are going to have higher standards from him as a film critic. Even though he's also a first-time director, it's like they've heard him talk about and critique other films. So they're going to expect a level of quality from
Well,
him that's like hard on a first time debut because of lack of experience and funding. But that is like that his thing is like filmmaking. You
yeah.
being a
I
critic was just like how he got there.
I think it's super similar to what we're seeing happen with friends of the pod, Raiders of the Lost podcast. They have a film podcast that is very incredibly successful, and now they're in a place where they can start making the films that they've been wanting to make for forever. They've been making a lot of short films recently, and I think that's like always been a goal for them. So I think that it's really hard to make a short. It's really hard. I have Paul, who was on the podcast, has made 2 shorts now, and the fundraising process is incredibly difficult. It's so hard, especially in this climate when the economy's so rough. Um, to get funds for creative projects and stuff like that. And I think that's what part of the reason why I just got a little more disillusioned with this movie just in the last like 10 minutes before we started recording. Because I read this like interesting article on IndieWire that I'll send to you guys. Um, it's not that this movie is so bad or anything like that. It's really not. There's some interesting stuff happening in it. There's some stuff in it that makes me roll my eyes so hard that they fall out of my head, and then I pick them off the ground, I blow, put them back in, then something else happens again. It's similar.
It's like,
Like
oh,
there's
pop, there it goes.
yeah, exactly. My eyes hurt really bad after that. But like I think with this one, it's such an incredible. Well, okay, first let me preface. I think it's a difficult time to be Chris Stuckmann doing this movie, being a YouTuber turned film director in the wake of the Philippines,
Oh yeah.
who did Bring Her Back and Talk to Me, which were both very very successful. Bring Her Back slightly less so, but Talk to Me was like a fucking runaway hit. As A24 took a chance on them, it was absolutely paid off in spades. It got like $91 million at the box office or something fucking crazy like that. And so this is again, what do I always say? It's Neon, and I feel like Neon like has such great energy, but sometimes it doesn't like hit the same mark that sometimes A24 can hit. Don't worry, A24 has some stinkers too. I'm not saying they're perfect, and I'm not saying Neon doesn't have some rock stars. But I feel like that was really hard. I feel like Neon really thought that is what was going to happen with this movie, especially having a big name like Mike Flanagan interested in the process. It's like a big horror name. It's like when everyone was so excited about him. Say what you want about him, but like Jordan Peele's name was associated with it. And so people were really hyped about it. But again, it's not a Mike Flanagan movie. It wasn't a Jordan Peele movie, so it's not going to be that. But people get confused when they see that name
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. So I think that also affects the expectations. I knew it wasn't going to be that, but at the same time, you're like, whoa, Mike said he liked it. Wow, that could be crazy. Also, I think it was really interesting how they changed the release date. This was going to come out on October 4th, which is in the spooky season. It's the start of the month. People are hyped. But then they changed it to October 27th, which is like the prime spot, the primo supremo spot for this month for our spooky high season. So I think that put a lot more pressure on the movie, which I don't think was necessarily a great move. Um, and then also the thing that was really bothering me is because this is a crowdfunded movie. It's incredible what he was able to do with the crowdfunding for this film. I want to find exactly what it says here. He was able to raise 1,000,000 like $400,000 from crowdfunding from 14,000 like 300 something supporters. He raised that much
Hell
money.
yeah.
That's fucking crazy. That's so cool. That's
Yeah, it's like they met
amazing.
their goal, and then they met their stretch goal, and then they added a
They
new goal
met
of a
their
million,
stretch
and then they
goal.
like exceeded that even.
Yeah,
And
it's amazing. And then he made this whole movie on that budget, and it was that movie. I mean, $1.5 million is a lot of money. That's amazing. But we see how much these budgets are for
mm-hmm.
other films.
Every TV
Things
show now is like a $15 million an episode TV show.
exactly. Like it's just costs so much to do anything. And so the part that I was reading in this article is that like apparently as being a part of the Kickstarter or whatever they use, the crowdfunding, you got like crazy access to the filmmaking process. And it was really cool. I don't know, good for them. They all got to see everything that was happening as it was happening, whatever. I don't know the exact extent to it because I did not donate a single dollar except for whatever AMC gave them from my AMC A list for the 2 times I saw it. But then once Neon came in and they started doing all the rewrites, or not rewrites necessarily, you can speak more to that
Yeah,
later.
because it was like stuff in the original script that they wanted to do that they couldn't do because they didn't have
They
the
like
time or
up the
money.
gore and
Yeah,
stuff,
and then they went,
right?
we wanted that in the script. Here's money to go do it.
Okay. It's when that came in, it changed the vibe, and so now the access was not given to
Mm,
those crowdfunders. And so a lot it kind of ostracized, or I don't know if that's exactly what I'm trying to use, but it
bad
distanced
taste in the
him
mouth.
from his supporters, and a lot of them saw him as a sellout for like accepting this money, and he
Mm,
was supposed to be doing this indie thing, which like when do you get the opportunity to get an extra fucking million
yeah.
dollars? Like let a guy win,
Right.
But at the
And also,
same
like, you want to be
time,
able to make the movie you wanted to make, and someone's
yeah,
giving you the money. It's not like, I get it. Go ahead.
I can see both. I can see both sides. Like I can also be like, okay, well, I paid all this money for you to make this
This was
movie, and
ours,
now
and
this was
now.
we were a part of this together,
Hmm.
and now you're taking this money from Neon. It's a whole different beast now, and like they're probably influencing what the final product is in a great way, which is like, changing what the original intent was of the art. Maybe, I don't know. So it kind of pissed off his fan base a little bit too. And then also, again, it's just the same fucking thing they did with Long Legs. They like
Yeah,
marketed
overhyped it.
this as
Mhm.
it was like gonna be the scariest thing of all time. That's what they did for Long Legs. This one, like, yeah, they did that too. And I would say this is a very scary movie. I was very unsettled. There are things that made me scared. I watched it twice. I was scared again today. I was also very anxious today. So I was in a prime spot to feel dread, which is what this movie gives you. But the thing that they did that was really annoying, and I luckily didn't see that much of this beforehand, but I saw a little bit of it. It redefines the found footage genre, like shit like
Mm,
that. Blair Witch, blah 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 blah. Like really comparing it to these other things and like saying how it's like redefining horror and stuff. And it's just like, can we stop saying that? Because it's like this guy's first fucking movie. Like,
yeah.
like you're giving him nowhere to go. Like it's just, yeah, that's the end of my spiel.
Yeah, I think there are interesting things about this movie that I did not know as an outsider coming to the theater and
Mhm.
watching this movie and going home afterwards. Like things I didn't know until I was researching it. And I didn't do that much research, but I read these two
Like
interviews. So it
about
was
the
like the part one and the
story
part
or
two
about him?
about the film. I mean both.
Oh, okay.
But like in regards to redefining the found footage movie, one thing that they did do is they shot the like all the paranormal YouTube stuff. They shot that in like 2020, I think. And they
Oh,
started uploading
cool.
it to YouTube as like this forgotten YouTube channel that they presented it as like a real YouTube channel at the time that they uploaded it. Of like, oh, this existed. These people, they were doing the Blair Witch footage or Blair Witch Project thing of like, this is
That's
a real thing.
cool.
But
Yeah.
as someone who hadn't heard of Chris Stuckman's, not familiar with his work, is not, I mean, we're on YouTube, but I don't really think of I go on YouTube to like watch music videos and ASMR. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's my YouTube exposure. So I'm just like not on that side of the internet that much. So I hadn't heard about that at all. So I think that is like a very interesting angle or thing that they tried to do that as far as I can tell just like didn't really make it into the
Damn, I wish I'd
final
known about that
product
before.
meaningfully. Yeah, because that is interesting and that
That's cool.
presents that lends itself
That
well
makes
to
me like
someone
it like
saying,
400% more. I
right.
just got excited for the rest
Yeah.
of the episode
Yeah,
just because of that.
amazing. I think that like redefines the found footage genre. Like that's an interesting thing to do. That's
Yeah.
a great starting point for something like this. I think it just kind of got lost once there began to be so much excitement about the project and this guy getting this opportunity to do this. and then being brought on with Neon for distribution. It became like this whole other, it's still an indie movie, but it became sort of like a Hollywood project as opposed to something that can kind of go under the radar, presented as a
Yeah.
real story. It sounds like I'm not totally sure, but what it sounds like is that the original plan was to have this YouTube footage of like, oh, there was this YouTube channel that existed. It's since been taken down, but it existed. These kids went missing. And then they were going to do the documentary about Mia, presenting Mia as like a real person investigating her sister's disappearance. And I
Mhm.
think the plan was always like post that intro to sort of like break that wall and step into the narrative story. But that was one of the things that they talked about in the interview is like when they premiered it at Fantasia Fest, they previously were like not allowed to reveal that it's not entirely a documentary. Um so I think that that was going to, it was like they were going to present it that way and try to Blair Witch Project it, and then once you're watching the movie you realize it's like a movie. But I think they just like that opportunity kind of got lost along the way. And he was saying in regards to marketing, that would have been like a fun secret to keep until you're in the theater, that it's not all just documentary and that it like steps into the narrative. But once you have someone like Neon come on who's doing all of the marketing, you're not just in charge of like what's being told in the marketing or like what makes it into the trailer. And we've talked about this with stuff with Companion before. Like sometimes it's very
Yeah.
hard to have a full length trailer without giving away part of what is essentially the premise of your movie when you have a reveal so early on. It's a tricky part of the business of making a movie because it is unfortunately also a business. It can't all be art because then you have, where are you
Yeah.
getting the money to make your movie? How are you paying the people making the movie?
No, totally. That's really too bad. Yeah, because basically this like 4 years ago was an ARG. It was a alternate reality game kind of thing on the internet. Like there, I
It's looks so video gamey to me.
yeah. Well, it's like a video one. It's like, have you seen We're All Going to the World's Fair? I talked about it. It's
You've talked about, I
what's her
haven't
I
name?
watched
have
it
not.
though.
Jane Schoenberg's first.
Yeah,
Maybe not the,
I don't
the
know.
first movie. It's the first movie in the trilogy of the movies. That the second one is the TV glow. What I saw the TV
I
glow.
saw the
Mhm.
TV glow.
Anyway, but yeah, it's like a video one. There's like video ones like that where it's like there's like a storyline and then people like play into the game by like making other videos that like are believing the thing. Anyway, so it's one of those. I just looked it up and there's like 700 videos from 4 years ago all about it. They're like, whoa, like there's someone who like made a channel called like Jess Paranoid Paranoids
That
and
was where they were uploading
paranormal
them. Yeah.
paranoids, and she was like being like Riley seems off, blah 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 blah. Like she might be in the fucking movie when they show those like clips of
Mm-hmm.
people reacting. I wish I'd known that going in. It would have been
Yeah.
so easy for them to put up a fucking little website, like how Blair Witch had the website,
I
and
think
be
it was one
like,
of those things where they wanted so badly to capitalize on the fact that this guy has 2 million YouTube subscribers that it hindered the movie from being able to stand on its own. They were trying to be like, we
well,
have a
there's
built-in
7
audience, let's grab
billion
it. And it's
people
like,
in the world, so 2
yeah.
million isn't that many of them. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. Damn. Well, I mean, I like it a lot more because of that. Because I was thinking while I was watching it, I was like, I feel bad for the other paranormal paranoids because they feel like they've really made this whole world and showed them for 2 seconds. So I'm glad to know maybe I can go back and watch those other guys before they get their faces ripped off. At least one of them gets his face ripped off. Um, well, that's cool. They really were trying to do some Blair Witch shit. And I thought the found footage stuff was really effective. I really enjoyed that. Some of my favorite parts of it, but y'all know that I am a found footage purist and I fucking love
You
found
are.
footage so much. Cuz I feel like it's a really great way for a low budget thing to be as effective as a high budget thing. You know, you can hide a lot and also it feels really real. If you do it right, you can do it really wrong. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea said this during the movie, and Sydney was sitting on the other side of me, so I don't know if she heard. But like you were saying, you were surprised by the shift in
Mm,
not tone isn't the word. It's like type of movie,
Yeah.
found footage to documentary
genre
to
shift.
normal movie genre shift. Exactly. So do you want to speak to that?
I think I did go into the movie thinking it was primarily going to be like documentary style filmmaking, and then they shift in the like credits. And I think if they had just shifted, I don't know, it was something about it being part of the credits that was so like tonally disruptive to me too. It's so like you're watching a movie now, and it's like I knew I was watching a movie before, obviously. But it was so interesting to me to like fully just divorce that presentation. I found it a little, I see now like kind of what they were doing and that they wanted that to be a moment. To me it felt really like strange. But I don't know, good or bad, I'm not sure.
I feel like it's a hard thing to pull off, but I don't know how they could have done it any other time. I feel like the title sequence is already like a point that like cuts into the movie, especially if they're doing a late title sequence as they did here. Um, so I thought it was interesting. I thought it was kind of cool. I like the way that the type of story. Well, I feel like it could have been done in another way, but that's just not the type of movie that he
Yeah.
wanted to make. He wanted to make the like first person like creeping dread kind of thing. He wanted to make a movie as well as these other things. It's hard to make a documentary horror movie because it can be really effective, but it can be really limiting. And so I think he
Yeah.
wanted to break out of those limitations early on. So like I think it's fair. It's interesting that it's three different types of movies in one, but
Yeah. Well,
I'm
because
open.
it would have been easy to a degree to have the documentary filmmakers be as invested as, not as invested, obviously, it's Mia's sister. It would have been interesting. There's a way to do it where the documentary filmmakers are like invested in the mystery of Riley's disappearance the same way that Mia is, and they're like following her on this journey,
Yeah.
and like documenting it. But I think her being alone for all of it is like a different thing. You know what? He wanted
Uh-huh.
her to be like having to slog it alone. Nobody believes her. Nobody's there with her. Her husband
Yeah.
has sort of abandoned her. It's a different character journey
The
for
husband.
sure than being like, I'm here with four other people in this abandoned prison or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, even if we never
Yeah.
see the documentary crew, it's not a found footage movie that's about the filmmakers. There still is the unspoken presence of like people are here with her as opposed to like she's alone and completely vulnerable.
I think also it would have been harder for them to get those dead on shots of our girl Mia going and he really liked doing those. So, and I like them too because she's really good at that. And I feel lightheaded from doing that from 5 seconds. So I don't know how she did that for that long. Um, Another cool thing about her being in the film, and let me look at her name. I'm so sorry. Mia is played by, oh my God, why is it so far down? Camille
Camille
Sullivan.
something.
Camille Sullivan. And apparently, Chris had reviewed one of her films back in the day. It was called, oh, hold on. I'm sorry. It was called what?
Do you want me to
Why
tell
is it
you?
not there? Okay, fine. Yeah, tell me.
It's called Hunter Hunter.
Oh yeah, he had reviewed Hunter x Hunter and specifically like put shine on her performance and how he thought she was so amazing in it, and then got to cast her a few years later. So that's cool. I love that that happened. Um, but yeah, I think that the tonal shifts are really are interesting. I like the documentary style. I like the whole like where is Riley Brennan thing. I got a little worried though cuz I was like, okay, there's 4 or 5 people in the paranormal paranoids. Why is it all this where is Riley Brennan shit? I was like, are they doing that thing where they only care about the pretty white girl? I'm like, I'm furious. what is this going to be? And I was like, oh no, the rest of them are just dead. They just know for sure that the rest of them are dead. So I guess they get off on that one. They get off on that one.
Yeah. It's interesting presentation of information through the original like documentary premise, like the way that they are presenting that story. I don't have like much to say about it necessarily, but it's interesting to think of it as like a narrative in universe that someone is putting together. And how they're being like, there's this mystery, and they're like doing the world building for the mystery to like build the tension before they reveal. But they want to present it as like this huge thing, and so it's like this worldwide phenomenon of the billboards and everything that's being graffitied. But it is interesting when you're like, there's four of them, just because this girl's sister is looking for her, like that's the only reason. And then they just, they
Yeah.
they reveal as they go.
They had to do the reveal. Also, the part in the documentary where they're like, "Oh, you never had kids, but oh, well, we wanted to have kids, but then Riley went missing and it just didn't feel like it was the right time." And they have the whole nursery together, so it's like, okay, they might be maybe they like got far along in a pregnancy and thought it was going to happen and had a miscarriage. But anyway, they had the exact same goose I have, which is four babies.
Oh.
And I was like, I have that same goose. So now I have the goose with me. Um, but yeah, I think some of the I don't think that it's necessarily a poorly written thing or anything like that, but some of the math ain't math. And for me, I don't know if we know the age difference between Riley and uh Mia, but there's obviously like maybe 3 years or something like
I'd say
that.
like
I don't know.
6, maybe.
You think it's that
Well,
much? Then that makes
I,
more sense.
I think Riley, she's the younger one, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's supposed to be like 18.
She's literally 18 when she goes missing.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. She was
Yeah.
8. I noticed that
Sh-
today.
and she looks old as hell. I'm so sorry. Like she looks my age and I don't look 18. Like I don't
I
look
think you look like
35,
her.
but I don't look 18.
Somebody thought I was 18 in January of this year, so I think that you look younger than me sometimes. So there you go. I've aged rapidly in the past year, but I don't know, we were pretty spot on earlier this year. But
Sarah Byrne's
yeah,
age is a mystery. You can't find it on Google. How interesting.
yeah, she's literally supposed to be 18 when she goes missing because they say that she was 13 when what's his
Wilson
fucking name?
Miles went to
Wilson
prison.
Miles goes to prison and her vision and her nightmares stop, and then 5 years later he gets out of prison and she goes missing 2 weeks later or something like that. That's not maybe exactly what he says. So she's 18 years old. And so then how old is Mia that she was trying that she
She'd be
got together
24.
with her boyfriend 2 years before Riley went missing, and they had already started trying to have kids. And then when Riley went missing, they stopped trying to have kids. I don't know. I was like, I'm nitpicking,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
maybe
I
they were
don't know
just ready to have
why.
children very early, and that's good for them. And I'm happy for them.
And maybe I don't remember exactly what they say in the movie. Maybe it's like they got married 2 years before, but they knew each other for longer. I mean, who knows exactly? I do get the impression that it's like he came into their lives 2 years before she went missing. And that made me
Yeah.
suspicious of him at first. And I still have suspicions about him.
Yeah, because he's a piece of fucking shit. Oh my God. Those people hate
Which is
each
so
other.
interesting because Chris Stuckmann in the interviews, he and his wife also had like a fertility journey that was complicated, and they came out of it on the other side, and they have twin boys now. And I think those boys play the baby in the movie, I think.
What?
Because the article was like, they
That's
make a
fun.
cameo, and it's like, if it's not that, then I don't know what it is. But also, I don't know the exact timeline in terms of like filmmaking or whatever. But um so their fertility journey like ended happily for them, but that was like a big thing that they were drawing on for the characters, and he really was presenting it in the interview that I read as being like, nobody's wrong here, but they're just having different experiences with it. But also I don't see any really redeeming qualities for that man within the scope of this movie. But then
Do you
again,
remember when we were watching in the theater and Sydney turned to us and was like, "Oh, he's gonna be a good guy," and then he immediately
1 second later, he's like, "I think you're crazy." Yeah.
Yeah, he did like a pregnant pause where like it could have gone either way, and then he's like, "You need to be institutionalized."
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that bitch because if he really if his true feeling was, I'm worried about you and I think you need help, the answer in that moment is not to get out of the room and walk away and then slam the door down the hall. That's not the right response. If you are worried about your partner and you think that they need help and then some sort
Also,
of intervention, it's not to go hide in somewhere else in the house.
I understand that this was purely a cinematic choice because they wanted to show the television's glow on her face covered in that man's blood. But if he was a good partner, he would have made her take a shower to get the suicide man's blood off of her body instead of letting her stew in it
Or at
for
least like
8 to 10 hours. What the
come
fuck
over with
is
a wet
that?
wash towel or
Be
something.
like, baby girl, let me help you. Like,
Yeah.
she's
Oh,
obviously in
somebody
shock.
just
She's
shot
not gonna
themselves
think of
in
it.
front of you. I'm taking care of you after this horrible thing just happened. I think they're at a point in
Diabolical.
their relationship where they're not meaningfully in a relationship anymore,
They're
but
so
they're
far
just
gone.
like still yeah, I think well cuz Riley's been gone like 12 years.
Yeah.
So um but yeah, in terms of the age difference, the impression that I got from the flashback is that Riley is like I think she said she's like 9 there and then Mia I think is like 14. And I don't know if that
Mm,
is
okay.
Mm.
something I learned in the movie or something that I've decided.
She
Um
looks like she could be a teen. I
yeah.
think you came to those conclusions by using your strong sense of deductive reasoning.
And it is not like outrageous to me that a, a woman married 2 years in Ohio at age 24 would be like trying to have a baby and like
No, that
already been
tracks.
trying. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
No,
Like
that
my
makes sense.
boss,
um
who's from
I
Ohio,
just
I think had her first baby at 23.
yeah.
I just
So
think like literally verbatim she says we got together 2 years before Riley went missing. I watched it like 3 hours ago and I'm pretty sure they said got together, not got married.
She also
But
says I always
whatever.
wanted to be a mother and he always wanted to be a daddy, which I just like ugh,
so
phrasing to
weird.
me,
I
but
know.
okay.
I agree.
Like
That was a red
pick
flag.
words
Blech.
that are like mother and father, mommy and
Mommy and
daddy, mom and
daddy.
dad, but like they
I
should
want to be a
match.
mother and he wants to
They
be a
should match.
daddy. Then
Yeah,
he should
it just
go.
was weird. Um, but
Yeah. I do
I don't
like
know.
that it was like the mystery thing. I mean, again, it is interesting how they switched the genre to normal movie, but we got so many research scenes and Chelsea loves those. So there's so many. She was
They did
researching all the
microfiche at
time.
the library.
Yeah, amazing. So
I
much
like the interview with Keith
microfiche.
David.
Oh my god, Keith
Oh,
David,
he was such a bright light in this movie.
he is so good. What did he say that was so iconic? He was like he was like a blight on my prison or something. Like everything was rot because of him. Something dramatic. I was like, you could say anything, but also that was a good thing to
He was
say.
a peculiar man, very quiet, spoke to no one. On that day, his door was wide open. He could have tried to run, but he just stood there, staring out the window, totally unaware of all the chaos surrounding him. When the dust settled, there he remained, which is very dramatic phrasing. That man was
And he's
carrying something. I don't know what it was, but it left nothing but death and rot in my prison. Are you
I
sure
love it.
he's dead? Yeah.
I love it. Um yeah, no, I love that. Because you turned to me and when we first were seeing it, and you're like, that's the guy from the thing. And I was like, what? Because can't read that fast, and I wasn't looking at the exact moment in the
You
right
didn't see
place.
Keith David's name when I
No,
saw
I
Keith
didn't
David's
see it.
name. And then, as
And
it
so
turns
I
out,
was
the
like,
thing
who
as
the
a movie
fuck?
title is very vague without context.
No, yeah, I really thought you meant like the thing.
Oh,
And I
you
was
know
like,
that
oh yeah,
thing?
that thing. I thought I was like you having a conversation with me where I can't ever remember words and I just say non-descriptive
Mm-hmm.
filler a lot of the time. So, oopsies.
You
Sarah
know that
Boyce.
thing. It's that guy from that thing.
That is the girl that I recognize. Who is that? Oh, oh my God. one of the news ladies, one of the newscaster people in one of those scenes in the documentary part, I thought looked so familiar. I was like, who the fuck is it? And I was just looking through the IMDb, saw the name Sarah Voigt. I was like, that is a super familiar name. Bitch, that's the mom from Terrifier 2. That's Barbara.
Oh, I was just like, that does sound familiar.
That's
I guess I saw that when we
crazy.
did Terrifier 2, and then I moved on with my life and I forgot.
That's so funny. Yeah, I thought she looked so familiar. I was like, what is that? I know her. Um anyway. Okay, where are we at in this movie right now? Let's talk about
Um,
the journey.
yeah. Okay.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say the flashback scenes were another thing that they did in reshoots. That was not something that was gonna be like on the page of the movie before in the final cut before Neon gave them $1 million and they had like 3 days to film more stuff. And so I think that that is like interesting context for the sort of
Like the little girls parts?
final, yeah, the little girls in the bedroom.
Oh,
That was like not something that you were
wow.
gonna see. I guess that was just a story that she was gonna tell her husband. And I think there maybe was more with the husband. I don't know what was gonna be in there, but I saw that there was more footage. And like I said, there's 11 minutes that got cut from the runtime from the
Wow.
previous version to now. So I think that a lot of that was just like editing choices of like we don't really need this. But there was
Yeah,
gonna be
because that was part of the deal is they brought in that new editor to chop
mhm.
things up when they got Neon involved.
And this is like when we finished this movie in the theater, I was like, was that movie 1 hour and 15 minutes? That's like the shortest theatrical release movie I've ever seen in my life. And you were like, no, IMDb says it's an hour 29. And I was like, there's no way. I know when this movie started, which is 30 minutes after the runtime was supposed to start, because that's how AMC rolls. And now it is 1 hour and 15 minutes later. And I guess it's like 1 hour 20, technically, is like minus the
There's
credits.
9 minutes of credits.
I think there's 5 minutes of credits. And then so probably we were doing like
Okay.
a rounding error or whatever in the theater. But
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because on IMDb it says 1 hour 31 minutes.
yeah, and it's like that's not right. I don't believe them for 1 second. I
That's
don't
so
know.
funny
That's
because
why in the theater I was like, we have to stay here. There's gonna be a post credits something, or how could this movie be as long as it says it is? And I don't think there was.
no. Uh, that's funny because today I was watching it and I was like, this is a short movie. And I was like, I must be almost done. I looked at the watch. I'm watching for 30 minutes only.
You were ready to be done.
I was ready to be done.
Uh,
It wasn't the right time for me. It wasn't the
yeah,
right time. I'm coming around though. I'm coming around though. It had
but
a lot of spooky imagery.
in the original cut, there was a lot more footage in between going to the prison and going to the amusement park. Like in in the movie as we see it, it's like she escapes the prison and the hellhound there and she goes to her car, then she drives right to the amusement park, which makes sense because it's like she realizes
Greatest
from
hits.
Wilson Miles's cell that he can see the Ferris wheel
Yeah.
and blah blah blah, the connection, etc., etc. But in the original footage, there was I think that part of the like documentary scene was sort of going to come back in there, and it said something about there was going to be more footage to really emphasize that like nobody believes that Riley could be alive anymore at this point. Like Mia's really the only one holding out any
Mm,
sort of hope. And so I think maybe you were going to get more of like Robert and Mia and their relationship there maybe. She was going to go back to like Mia's dream journal and that was going to be more relevant again because again in the finished movie that's kind of just like color. It's not really like plot at all that she has this dream journal. It's kind of just like character building for Riley more than anything else. Um, but in it, it was
I,
going to show that like some of her dreams really were prophetic, like something about there's going to be something in there that made Mia realize that she has to go to the amusement park, and there was going to be something in there about Wilson Miles's like suicide. Um, and so that was just going to be like a larger plot point, and then it was like we don't. There's a simpler way to get from point A to point B. Um, but I think we lose a
they
lot of
might
that
have
element of like,
oversimplified it in
yeah,
some places. I think they made it too lean. How did
it's
this?
so short.
It's so short. How did this movie start again? Is it start in the documentary and it's like cornfields, or is it start with paranormal paranoids? Like what is the very opening?
Isn't it the sister talking about um like the other sister going missing or something
Or
like that?
is it like the video of her like crying right before she or something like that? I don't know.
Oh
I
Oh,
feel
yeah, it's
yes.
her in the house.
like her
Yeah.
in the house crying. I think I understand why they did that. It gets you going. I wish almost that they could have like I'm just trying to think of ways, and I'm not a filmmaker. Think of ways that they could like have brought in the color of the whole YouTube series and that whole ARG thing a little bit more, like even giving us like more of like a whole like you start in an episode of Paranormal Paranoid so you like can understand what's going on like and who they were and that sort of a thing. I just I almost cared enough about Riley because Mia obviously cared so much, but I feel like I never got to know her that much. I also just feel like I was so distracted by the fact that she looks so much like Taylor Swift, and that felt so intentional to me. It was hard to get past. And don't let me forget my point about bangs later because it's crucial.
I think it's probably my
What?
same point about
Wait,
Bangs.
okay, we just wait. We're not there. But like, yeah, I feel like usually you need to chop more and some things are so overlong these days, but I just felt left like wanting more. And then there were just some things that like felt like idiosyncrasies to me, and like obviously the police aren't perfect. There's literally a point where they show the graffiti and it says a cab, so I was like that's appreciate that being in there. But like how did they not search the house that's 20 steps
It's
away from
literally
the
right there.
fucking Ferris wheel? Are you
I
kidding me?
mean,
They're
I
doing
guess
all these searches.
you could make the argument that it's a private residence and they'd need a warrant and there's no reason for them to obtain a warrant, and even if she let them walk around in the house, they're not going to realize there's like a trap door under the rug without again
Who
doing a
lives
further
there? The
search. But
mother of a recently released convict
that's true.
2 feet away. Literally, they know who lives there.
But
Like, what the,
the
like,
whole
that felt
thing
like a
with
plot hole to
him,
me.
the whole thing with him is that they don't know where he's been, and like we find out later in the movie that he's been with his mom and she's been keeping him off the grid. But again, it's the kind of plot hole of like if he was released from prison, in theory, is he on parole? Does he have a parole officer?
Yeah,
What's the address he's been
he
paroled
just
to?
disappeared.
They should know, they should be monitoring him. He must have given some, I don't know if he was like released to a halfway house and then he disappeared. Obviously it's his mom's house,
Yeah.
and so maybe they would be able to get a warrant, but again it's that kind of thing of like if they don't know that that's where he was going, if that's not on the record, then it's a blah blah blah. But I agree,
It just pissed me off that it was like
it's
right
literally
fucking
right
there.
steps
I
away.
was just
Yeah,
like, maybe that's what you're supposed to feel. It's like, oh, we were so close to her this entire time. Like they might have walked right by this house in the aftermath while during the searches and never found her. So
they might
maybe
have
it's
thought it
one of
was an
those
abandoned
things.
house, but then again, why not search it because it's so
Yeah.
moldy.
I think they were also like I think Chris Stuckmann, like from what I was gleaning from like this Polygon interview I read with him, he's like really into having like subtlety in his horror, which like comes across here. This isn't like a huge like in your face kind of scary movies. Like a lot of the time there's really horrific stuff happening on the TV screen and you're just looking at Mia's face instead. You see that one face get ripped off. There's a couple of jump scares, but it's more like creeping dread at least for me most of the time. Some of the jump scares really get me though. I was felt fucking terrified. It's like heavy breathing and one of those things. I do love when movies do this where there is something that you can almost not see at all. And so when I see it, I'm like, I'm a genius.
Yeah,
But like when you can see the incubus's like sexy fucking form in the background when she's in the cell. Um, that was cool. All the times they did that. But like I feel like it might have been I don't know, too much subtlety at times. Too simplified at times where it feels like it was like a leap. But back not to not no, let's move away from criticism for 1 second and go to a question that I have. One big part of this movie and I don't have the answer to this, so I don't know if it was on the internet. I couldn't find it, so let me know what you guys think. One of the big parts of this movie is the R and M thing on the tree.
Yeah.
So Riley and Mia's mom would carve their initials into the tree to like mark the trees so they can always find their way home. And then also, Tarion, the incubus in question, demonic incubus in question, has like a mark of the devil for him specifically. And it's like an M and a W kind of together with a triangle in the middle. Not exactly
Two
that.
X's.
Yes. But it kind of, the reason I said that is because it looks like an
I did
M
think
a
it was a
little
W and
bit.
M at one point.
Well, it looks like an M, and one of the R and the M one of them is Nem. And so I'm like, is that supposed to be a thing where like was that part of like a calling card to Tarion? That because like I couldn't help but notice that they both had marks on trees and like why else did they come to them? I don't know if that's just like not an important question, but I don't know. I was like, am I supposed to be having thoughts about this? Because I am, but they're going nowhere.
WM Wilson Miles.
Mm.
I thought it was XX, which I thought was interesting within the context of like an incubus who needs a female host to impregnate with
Yeah.
his progeny. Cambion is what a half demon baby is called, I
Yes,
guess. That's what
can
she
be
said in the
on.
end, and I kept being like,
Yeah,
"What is she saying?" But then I read it on IMDb trivia.
yeah, same.
Um, but
I was like, she's speaking in Latin. It's not for me to know.
yeah, one thing that I thought was interesting about the R and the M, they write it R and M, R first, then M every single time, which I thought was interesting within the context of Mia being older. But
Hmm.
then when you see it in the cell, the R is backwards. And I
Yeah,
think there's maybe another time that we see it somewhere.
Tyrion. Also the R is backwards.
Yeah, and I thought that
That's
was interesting because obviously, like, the M could be backwards. You wouldn't be able to tell because that's just how an M looks. Except then it would be MR, not RM. So I wonder if there's like some significance to that, and I don't know what it is. But the fact that Robert's name also starts with an R is part of my suspicions of him, and I think that from what I read from Chris Stuckmann being like nobody's in the wrong here, and me being like Robert is the devil and he's part of like a hereditary-esque plot where he's been placed there from the beginning to
Mhm.
ensure that things are going according to plan. I don't think that's his
Yeah, he could be
intention,
like
but I'm like
whatever his
this
fucking
guy's
name is from
suspicious as
Rosemary's
fuck.
Baby. He's like whatever
Yeah.
the fucking hot actor guy from Rosemary's Baby.
To me, it's like he's so suspicious again because he keeps being like, "Are you okay? I think something's wrong with you," and then just like fucking off. Um, and I don't know. I guess he
Also,
just like hates her guts. Maybe they're just at that point in their
yeah,
relationship where they're so distant from each other that he hates her
definitely hates
guts.
her guts.
And it's only once she's been validated as correct and that her holding out hope and searching this whole time was worthwhile because her sister is in fact alive that he's like, oops, I guess I was wrong and like tries to reach out. Um, but I just am like suspicious as hell of him and the like grand design on these like sisters, like him being part of that to me it feels doable if there's like this larger Tarion cult, and then the impression that I get being at the Miles house is no, that's not the case. So
Well, I don't know,
except he's in
cause
that picture there. He's
thank you. That's what I was just gonna say. He's in all those pictures. There's no picture of Riley with other people in the shrine. It's just Riley on her own. And there's tons of pictures of her with the paranormal paranoids. There are pictures of Mia that exist that don't have her husband. Also, just cut it in half. Just cut the
exactly.
picture in
It would be
half.
so easy to
Like
not have
Regina
him
George
be
that shit.
on your little heart photo wall if you didn't want
Yeah,
him to be part of
I
it,
thought that
but
was
he
weird
is
too.
there.
I also thought it took me out of it because I thought that was like the funniest picture of all time. The picture of the two of them. Like, there's a picture of them when they're together and they're like for the like earlier in their relationship, and they're like, yeah, and then they're like, and then we didn't have a baby and we just stopped trying. And then it's the other picture of them, and it's like I've never seen a picture of two people who hate each other more. Like, it's so funny. It's like a little overdone. So funny. Oh
One
God.
of the visuals that got shouted out in the article as like a strong visual in the film is that the like crib has become storage. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if this is like an explicitly canonical aspect of the film, but to me, that storage is like her research into Riley's disappearance or like Riley's case, if
I
you
think it
will.
is. It looked like case file boxes.
I agree. And so I think it is like an interesting visual to be like, she says Riley disappeared and we decided it wasn't the
Yeah,
right time after that. So to be like Riley's disappearance literally takes over that like physical place in their
that's
lives
cool.
that they were like
I
planning
like
for that,
that.
I think is interesting.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
but I think that relationship was just not as much of a focal point in the movie as it could have been if that is meant to be like a larger part of the story or Mia's journey. It was like Robert was weirdly on the page and also not the page to a degree that it made me suspicious of him. And now I'm learning that
Yeah.
like maybe I'm not supposed to be. So
Yeah, it kind of just feels like it's not like a red herring. It just feels like a loose end.
another thing that I thought was weird, the way that they talk about Shelby Oaks, the amusement park, and the way, yeah, I think you're thinking the same thing. The way that she's like, I think I had a dream about this place, and then she's like, we went there all the time. I don't. It sounded to me like you guys
Plot
had never
hole.
been there before.
That's a fucking plot hole. Yeah, Riley. I think they changed that. I think they must have changed that, and it was like a writing mistake. I noticed that same thing today. I was like, what the fuck? She literally said that she was like, wow, I don't know if I've ever been here. Like, was she like a little baby who was just born? Maybe. But like, and then
Well, what
Mia,
they
like, with
keep
her full
saying is
chest
like,
is like, we always went here. But
yeah,
Riley said, quote, my mom used to come here all the
mm-hmm.
time.
That's what they
So
say
I
in the
think they
beginning. They
changed
keep just
it.
saying like, my mom came here all the time when she was young, and then when she's like telling her husband that story about when she had the dream when she was 14. So maybe that was part of the reshoots once they were able to like do that footage of the flashbacks that they were like, let's introduce. I don't. Maybe that was scripted a different way in the original cut. I don't know, but
It's just like,
I thought that was
let's
weird.
dot our I's and cross our T's, please. Like, come on. It's
Why
just
would she
little
be
things
saying
you
I had
can
a dream about
do.
this place and that's like evidence of her prophetic dreams or whatever if she's been there?
Yeah,
Like, oh, you had a dream about somewhere that you've been? Okay, me too.
yeah. She just didn't need to say that line. Like Mia didn't need to say what she said, and then problem solved. So that was just a mistake, I think. That they
Just
didn't
weird.
catch. Unnecessary. Um. Yeah. Okay. Like, so the dogs are all new. That's one of the
The
new
dogs
things.
are all new. It sounds like they had dogs originally that were just like not behaving well and they didn't have the time. They filmed the initial filming was done in like 20 days or something like that. So with
Mm-hmm.
indie films, you just don't have time to waste or money to
No, you
waste.
don't have
And so it
months
just
to
like,
put people up.
yeah, it just like, it wasn't working out. And then Neon was like, how come we didn't do that? I loved that. Because originally at the end, sorry, spoiler for the end, but whatever, who cares? At the end,
This is
after
spoiler
Riley like
podcast.
falls out of the window, it was just like she dies on impact, was the original plan.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
That's so funny. They write some of these articles before watching
yeah.
it with the changes because the Polygon episode article that I read said like and she falls out of the window and dies. And I was like, perhaps
Yeah.
there were dogs who ate her alive.
I
Yeah.
Perhaps,
mean,
sir.
she
This is like with
technically does fall out of the window and die, but like
That's true. It's
there's
just
a
kind of
little bit of
glossing over
another
it a little.
thing. Oh my god, it's like with weapons when they were calling Marcus that other name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Something with a
Interesting.
J. Josh, perhaps. Anyway,
Perhaps we anyway.
perhaps we can't say. Um, yeah, she originally she just like fell out of the window and died, and then her getting ripped apart by the dogs must have been in the script. And obviously the strength of the script was part of what got Neon to be involved. And then they were just like, where was that? Like, why didn't we get that? That was gonna be like sick as hell. Um, and so they had 3 days to do reshoots and $1 million. And so they flew in like 3 dogs from different parts of the country, like I said, that all, as far as I can surmise from what I read, had different trainings in terms of like how to bite things or how to chew things or like things that the dogs would get excited biting and chewing so that they were able to do these like different effects of like the dogs ripping them apart. Um, so that is cool, but like originally they were just gonna have like the dogs in a circle around the house to just like show that this is the new like den of evil or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. It's I don't really remember why I started saying that actually. So if anybody else would like to say anything, please jump in.
No, I thought the dogs aspect was fine. It's just another. I felt like it was an homage to the Omen. Obviously, this is just a
Yeah,
demon story, so that's just like in the books about demons
and
as
like the
well.
birth of the Antichrist or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But it felt very Omen. It felt very Rosemary's Baby. Obviously Blair Witch. So they're pulling from a lot of great stuff. You know, a lot of great stuff. Also, like one part that I found straight. Wait, okay. Before I do that, I just want to say that Tyrion's hot, and they did a really good job. And I thought it was scary. I thought the way he looked was scary. I didn't like once I saw him closer that he was like a skull kind of, but then I started to like it. I changed my mind. Um,
He's so big
I
and beefy.
He's so big and beefy. They made him so hot. I thought that was such an interesting and exciting choice. And Chris Stuckmann, I was reading this article. He's like, yeah, power to him. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. But he's like, I had this journal and I was drawing. I was drawing what Tarion would look like. And it was so fucked up. Like it looked crazy in there. It just it reminds me of like sorry Sydney, my least favorite part of Good Thing I Like My Friends canceled that song where she's like what does she say, like my world it's so dark and deep or whatever. Sydney, I need you to help me here. What's the lyric that she says? She's like fuck, I'm gonna look it up. Okay, cut out this pause later on, hold on. Okay, it reminds me of my least favorite lyrics of my least favorite new Taylor Swift song, which is canceled. And I've seen so many hilarious videos about this specific part, but it's like, "Welcome to my underworld where it gets quite dark." I feel like that's Chris Stuckman with his little journal, and he's
That's
drawing.
him like
He's
writing like
fucked up.
Riley, like scratchy font.
You gotta have a spooky journal, but I'm just like it. Just the he was like, yeah, I was really fucked up what I put in the journal. I was like, I don't ever want to see it. He's like, maybe I'll release that one day. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I'm chilling on that. That's okay. Okay. So he had Jason Hammer come in, who's a Emmy winning practical effects designer, who just did the Odyssey, the new Christopher
Mm.
Nolan. So that's pretty fucking cool. And he also shared the sketches with Carlos Huante, who's a concept artist, who did stuff for Dune, Blade Runner, 2049, and Prometheus. And so Huante created the creature design, and then I think Jason Hammer brought it to life. And then they had Derek Mears wear the suit that they actually created,
Mm.
and he played Jason in the Friday the 13th movies. So that was pretty cool. And he's 6'8", in case you want to
Nice.
know. 6'8". I'm glad they made him hunky. I think that was very fun, especially in that part where in the like we already talked about in the cell where you can just see his like rock solid abs. But I think that it's actually really important, unfortunately, even though the concept in and of itself of an incubus and a succubus, super fucked up, a sex demon that like basically trigger warning rapes you in your sleep, like it's literally so fucked up. But like because they are a sex demon, it makes sense that they have an erotic visage, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but
The
it get yeah.
the incubus lore of it I think is strange and interesting in this movie. I wish that we knew a little bit more of it,
Yeah.
but without like a weird kind of long exposition scene. I mean, we could have done more at the end with like the documentary aspect of it, but I think that would have like slowed the momentum
Yeah.
of the like grand finale. Um, but I'm so curious because it's like Tarion was sort of connected to Wilson Miles, but and Norma, who I felt like that was a reference to like Norma Bates from Psycho.
It's also
Um,
my grandma's name, and I thought that was rude. That they drag her name through the mud like that. So fucked up.
I love the name
I can't
Norma.
believe they would do that.
Me too. But she's not a spooky lady who only has saltines. She had much better crackers than that.
Cracker. Everybody laughed at that in our movie theater. But I wasn't really. I kind of got the sense from what she was saying of like Riley should be like honored that she had been like Tarion's lover and Wilson Miles was her baby with Tarion. But then I'm like,
Yeah.
then why does she need Wilson Miles to impregnate Riley? Why can't like Tarion do it directly? I don't really know. I'm curious about that. Is it like Tarion
I feel
Miles
like
was connected to Wilson Miles and having like a human to connect to gave him more power in the physical world, so he didn't need all of the like ritual per se. I don't really know. I'm curious about how all of
yeah,
it
that was a
worked.
little convoluted too, because I was like, usually Incubus can just like do the dang thing
Yeah.
himself.
And it kind
But
of presents Wilson Miles in this interesting light of like he was also a victim and he was also being held. I mean, the thing he says when he shows up on Mia's doorstep is like, she finally let me go, presumably talking about his mother.
yeah,
Um, so it seems like he is also just an instrument in all of this, but the fact that he's like this
that's a really
grown
good
man and
point.
she's like an 18-year-old girl and he's like smiling in some of the photos. I don't know, it just has this really weird vibe, but then it's also like it could be that he's also being held there against his will and has been manipulated his whole life and is now being forced to dig the graves, and it's also his lost pregnancy or dead baby or whatever is happening it's messy.
I feel like the only way it makes sense is if Tyrion has to take the form of someone, like, or possess someone in order to do his dark deeds or
Yeah.
whatever.
His
And
dark
maybe they
deed.
have to be like part of his bloodline. It has to be something like that. I don't really know how it
Or
works. I'm like
maybe
very
like
confused.
Norma was a willing vessel and so she was able to like invite Tarion in, and Riley is not a willing vessel, so they need to do it a more tangible physical way. I don't know. Like I can see their I can make up internal logic, but I wish that I
Yeah.
knew what the logic of the film was. But I
Yeah.
also don't know a way that it could have presented that information that wouldn't have just been like needless exposition weighing down the film.
Yeah, that was one of the things I read in this Polygon article with the interview with Chris, is that he was really into how they made the reveal happen, where you find out that Riley has been having these forced pregnancies, and how they did it through the family photo album, because he really loved the idea of like the family photo album is supposed to be all the happiest moments, but it's actually a bunch of fucked up shit. He's like, we took 1,000 pictures and some of them are really disgusting. Once again, he's like, you don't even want to see these other
Yeah.
pictures that we didn't put in. And I
Oh,
was like,
my
you're
underworld
right,
where it gets quite
it
dark.
gets quite dark in his underworld. That's so fucking funny. Um, but yeah, I'm glad I never get to see that. And I do think it was a interesting way to reveal it. You know, it's cool. I liked the fucking pictures with the headdresses. I really like the headdresses. I thought
The
they were very
wilderness wedding.
cool. Yes, the wilderness wedding. The images were really shocking and horrific. So I thought that that was an interesting thing. But unfortunately, what it led to is that there's like a folk horror aspect of this film, which is my favorite thing. And they're just like, here's some pictures of it, and here's one part, and that's
Yeah.
it. And I just, I was like, give me the whole thing. Give me the Tarion biopic. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But that's not this movie. It's
Yeah.
doing too many other things.
I didn't fully our Discord friends, are some of our patrons on our Discord, which you can also be part of if you'd like to be a patron. That's our little shout. They
Plug.
saw the movie before we did, and they had like a long thread where they were talking about it, and I didn't want my opinions to be like totally colored by theirs, so I haven't fully read through it yet, but I glimpsed in it a little bit. And one thing that some of them were saying was that it's so frustrating to have a storyline like Riley's where she is experiencing this like horrible abuse and trauma, and to have that just be like color for somebody else's story and
Yes.
such like a throwaway like almost unacknowledged thing to happen that is so horrendous. And I
That
think Riley's story not that I want to see that necessarily, but Riley's story is so interesting, and within the context of this movie, it's all just background for Mia's story, because really Mia is
Is
the
the
character of the
protagonist.
movie.
Yeah.
But it is like an unfortunate element of it that is, again, just kind of messy.
It's so frustrating. And like, I'm not saying that I want them to have changed the way this whole thing shook out. It'd be a completely different movie, whatever. But spoiler alert for Heretic, real quickly. Sorry. Have you seen it, Sydney?
No, I can't believe you're gonna spoil it for me. Actually,
Okay,
I'll
well,
never
close
watch
your
it again.
fucking ear.
Wow,
Close your
Monica
fucking
doing
ear.
a spoiler for a movie Sydney hasn't seen?
Well, I have to make this point because it felt like the reveal in Heretic to me, where it's just like, actually, the women are in cages, blah, 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 blah. That it's like, actually, the reveal is that it's like this horrific thing of torture that's been happening to a woman. It's like, isn't that scary? And I'm
Isn't
like,
that
yes,
sick?
actually, it is so sick and twisted. Your underworld does get quite dark.
Welcome
like, okay,
to my underworld where it gets quite dark.
the women are in cages. Like, it's like, I get it. And I was like, okay. like, I don't know. Like, are they always in cages? Is that always going to be the reveal? Like, I know it's just two examples, but it really reminded me of that. Um, and it just was like a little bit of a like, ugh moment for me. I don't know. I'm tired
Yeah.
of seeing that same type of thing in movies all the time, especially when it's been done so much better times before. Like Rosemary's Baby does something similar to this, and it does it so much better. And it's not, I don't know. But that's Rosemary's Story, so it's different. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
The
think that's
the fact that
something
it's
that
just set
is,
dressing makes it cheaper.
yeah, I think that is, I mean, it's tricky because Mia is sort of a side note to the central mystery, but then the reveal is
Mm-hmm.
that she is very central to
Yeah,
the
that's true.
Tarion
That's true.
plot. And I think it's by virtue of her being Riley's sister as opposed to like Riley's father, Riley's brother. It like takes some of the sting out of being like this woman's pain is this background for this other character.
Yeah, because he obviously
Um
cares about her so deeply.
yeah, but it it's messy. But I don't know. It the plot line of that all is kind of interesting to me because I mean the same monologue is in there twice where she says like Wilson Miles was used, he was possessed or controlled or what have you, to accomplish this thing from the very first moment that he looked through her window. And then it shows that like flashback again, and then in the second flashback we finally see what she sees. We don't see it the first time, but we see
Mm-hmm.
her like looking at the window, like Tyrion's looking right back at her. Obviously, that's not the first time that he looked through Riley's window. He'd been doing it at that point for a while, which is why Mia comes to sleep in her room in the first place. Um, but it kind of makes sense to me, especially with the ending. Once Mia is able to like find Riley and escape with her and take her home. And it makes sense how they're able to do that because Tyrion is getting what he wants, which again kind of goes to the like hereditary connections that I'm making
Uh-huh.
and why I'm suspicious of Robert, but it's again irrelevant, whatever. But it's like Chris Stuckmann kind of hinted at the idea of Mia being unable to have kids, and we kind of don't really get into what exactly their fertility journey is other than it didn't happen for them. Maybe there was a late term pregnancy loss. Maybe they were just like super jazzed to have a family, so they'd set up a whole nursery before there's ever any wisp of a pregnancy. Um,
Yeah.
but if you have a sister who can't have kids and a sister who is able to have kids, you don't want the traumatized person raising your demon baby. They're not going to be able to like raise it with love in their heart or whatever, so it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to kind of like split it between these two sisters if you're Tyrion and that's his plan. To be like, I need one sister who can give birth to the baby, and then I need somebody else to raise it because obviously Riley is gonna smother that baby. You know what I mean? Like she
Yeah.
is not able to be the loving protector for the demon baby the way that Norma is because of whatever reason, or the way that Mia is because she sees it as an innocent child. She didn't have to experience the horrors
And
that got her to the baby being born. She was
it's
able
an
to like
extension of
be
her sister.
it's an extension of her sister. She always wanted to be a mother. So it makes it's like good plot construction.
Mhm.
But again, it
I
just
mean,
like part of it feels icky.
yeah, no, and also like that what really drives that home is in the last documentary section that we get, which I find to be so silly. They're like, "Have you noticed any differences with Riley since she's been home?" And she's like, "Well, she's been home for 1 day.
Yeah.
So no." I was like, "Okay, why are we doing this?" But then also she's like, "And how's the baby?" And Mia's like, "The baby's amazing." Like she's
Yeah.
like so euphoric about the baby. And so I'm like, okay, that should have been more suspicious. I get it that people love babies, but like she should be excited about her sister. I don't know. I thought that reaction was like so jubilant. It was like, whoa. Um, so I don't know. Maybe also like Tarion knew that Mia had this like unending levels of devotion inside of her that she has given for 12 years to the like cause of finding her sister. And so now she can like give that devotion to the child, to him, whatever, if he can manipulate her enough. So maybe it's something with that. We don't get to find out. But one silly thing I want to say before we really do the end is the Banks thing.
I was gonna
Girl,
remind you.
why the fuck does she still have perfectly cut bangs 12 years later? Her hair has turned like gray, or maybe she's just so dirty, but it kind of just stays that way. But they keep trimming her fucking bangs.
Those are my
Why?
discussion
Why? That
questions.
was preposterous. That was
Um,
preposterous.
as somebody with bangs, I absolutely know that Norma was a homie and probably cut hair at some point. And so she's like, I will do you one kindness and keep your bangs because they slay.
Okay.
One of my questions was a filmmaking questions. Is it like, did they think that that actress wouldn't be recognizable without her bangs? So they were like,
Yeah.
we have to just make sure that she still has bangs so that we know that it's Riley on first glance.
They could have just I don't know. Maybe because like she
Riley's in
has it.
there like with it taking a sharp rock, like sharpening it against the cell doors in the wall, and then just like, I have to maintain some semblance of my identity. I'm a girl with bangs.
Everything that was going on with her hair was strange. I don't know why it turned gray.
I think it's
Like
just
obviously
brown but
stress, but
dirty.
it's like
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe she was a bottle blonde, who knows.
Or
But
just
she was
like no
blonde as a
exposure to
child.
sunlight.
Yeah, it
Your hair
just
gets darker.
gotten
I was blonde as a child. I'm not now, you
My
know?
hair gets darker in the winter every year, like, and then
I
lighter.
yeah, that's true. But the other thing that bothered me is like why did it look like that? Why
Yeah.
like why was it all poofied out? Like if she's like if they're not bathing her whatever, it would be oily and gross.
Rat's
Like
nest
fucking
matted.
aunt auntie creepy mommy whoever that lady is the scary old lady like her hair was oily as all hell like glued down. It just looked so weird. It was like a puffy wig. I was like what is happening? And then another moment in this movie that is just makes no sense to me. First one was when Mia didn't kick the blood off of her face and no one took the blood off of her face. Why didn't they bathe that poor woman before they put her in the fucking hospital gown and in the hospital bed? Are you kidding me? They're not going to clean her? That's probably the biggest medical issue that she's having is that she hasn't been bathed in fucking 12 years. Like,
It wouldn't look as cool, Monica.
I
Duh.
just,
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
as a serial rape victim, maybe they're being sensitive to not forcing her to have a sponge bath.
Fair, but also I
But
feel like
also, yeah.
she needs to have clean time for her soul.
They really gloss over the whole hospital. They're like, we're in the hospital just so you know that we went to the hospital. And we're just gonna cut back to the documentary footage, and maybe you can just make up in your head that she had a 3 week stay in the hospital and
Yeah.
this is her first time alone with the baby since. But it's very like, how come you're just gonna take her home? she just went through 12 years of trauma. She just goes
And you're
home
gonna leave her
afterwards
in the room with the baby?
and yeah, you leave her in the room with the baby who obviously you know whether or not she loved. I was thinking like she must think that her sister loves the baby because they were gonna escape, but Riley is the one that like ran away and was going back upstairs where the
Like
baby
she
was.
was
So
trying
she
to
must
kill it.
think like she wants the baby, she loves the baby, but either she wanted to kill it and that was her
No, she
goal,
wanted to
or
kill
she
it.
didn't.
She's the one who picked up the fucking metal, like
Mm,
Yeah.
fireplace thing. I got confused visually with that. I thought it was Mia. No, it was Riley because she had it gets thrown out of her hand during that
yeah.
crazy
I
fight
think there's
scene.
room for misinterpretation on Mia's behalf
Of
that it's like
course,
she's trying to separate Norma from the baby and she
yeah,
needs a weapon. Um,
I
but
understand why Mia thought that.
yeah, but like regardless, this girl has been through 12 years of trauma. I don't think she should be the sole caretaker for a baby, even if they're just going to sleep at night. That baby is gonna wake up and need feeding or changing or whatever. Maybe don't just like have I don't know. I don't know that there's a proper procedure for how to handle your sister who's been held captive for 12 years and the baby that she was forced to have. But um I don't know that I would have made those choices in Mia's stead.
No. I think my biggest issue with the end of this movie is that it just feels like super rushed. Like it just feels like and I feel like that's part of it is it's supposed to be for shock factor. It's supposed to be like bing bang boom. She's defenestrated out the window. There she's on the
The window's
ground.
cracking. The window's
Wolves.
cracking to show Tyrion's approach.
Yeah,
Of
I
course she
did
goes
love
right
that.
through it.
I fucking did love the window cracking thing throughout. It really spooked me. It was very
And then you get
unsettling.
the sense like 1 minute before, like, oh my god, she's gonna go out the window, which is like fun.
Yeah. 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 And it's
She's torn to
horrific that it's like
shreds.
it's
Oh
her
my god.
sister that causes that to happen after she just got her home and then she's
Mm-hmm.
fucking out the window and then literally eat it up by the hell dogs, which is such a bad way to go. And again, I do love the visual at the end. I did love big sexy Tarion chest behind her and the hand on her shoulder and her like guttural scream as her eyes change to the spooky eyes. Cause like we see Wilson have those spooky eyes when he's in the cell earlier. It's a blink and you miss it kind of thing, but I'm sure y'all saw it when Mia goes down into the dungeon area where she finds Riley, and you're like, where the fuck did grandma go? And she's on the ceiling like a fucking scary, I don't even fucking know, and her eyes are glowing like that. That's obvious, like, that Tarion is like, I think, in her body at that point, making her be able to do those types of things. So I like that that was at the end kind of like showing like how he is able to possess through touch and that sort of thing. So that was cool. But then it's just like it was just over and I was like, what? I was like, that
Yeah.
again, an hour 20 minutes. I was like, that's it. And it's not that it's not a cool ending. It is a cool ending. Like it is. But at the end I was like, that's it. That was my immediate thought. And I felt the same way again, except a little bit more like, that's it. I can go home. Because I really wanted to go home today.
It really, I think what they were going for is like the horrified scream at the ending is the dawning realization that what Tyrion wants has been her the whole time,
Yeah.
and she gave him exactly what he wanted at every step of the way, essentially. Which is why I
Yeah.
mean, that's the conversation with the person who's doing the filmmaking documentary, who's like, okay, off the record, how did you find that house? And she's like, something wanted me to find it, which is like Tyrion led
No,
her
it's a
there
good
with his
point. It's a good
hellhounds.
point.
So again, it's one of those things where it's like maybe the house wasn't right there and the police were like so stupid to just like walk right past it, and it was like a longer trek that just like didn't get shown in the movie for simplicity's sake kind of deal. Maybe you can only find it if you're like looking for it. Um so I think they wanted it to be that like the dawning horror of the realization that this is a tragedy of my own making in many
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
But I think for
Best
it to
intentions.
feel complete, there should have been a post credit scene. I don't know what that post credit scene should have been, but there should have been something, I think, to sort of I don't know. It
Make
would have
sure
been an
there wasn't
interesting
one.
way. Yeah, I guess. But I don't think there was. Um, but I don't know. I don't. It's.
Oh, yes, Shelby Oaks has a post-credit scene, which is an audio-only moment where Mia sings a nursery rhyme.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean that's not exactly what I would want something more than that, but that can see that being something. And especially because there's that song that Riley sings, there's the video where she's like big sister come find me. Um and that was going to be more of a moment in the movie where Mia was going to sing that to Riley when she finds her in the cell to like snap her out of her shock or trance or whatever you would like to call it. So I can see this like singing having been a bigger through line and that also getting a little bit left on the chopping room floor. But I don't know. I think just like it's I see the idea, but then just being like Riley torn to shred by dogs and scream. Um, it feels a little silly almost,
Yeah,
the torn
the
apart by
dogs,
dogs.
the dogs thing did feel silly. It felt like it felt. I honestly laughed a little bit. Like I was like, "Oh, okay." They're like, "We're done with her now."
Mm-hmm. Which
They're
is
like,
the story. Is like
"Yeah,
we only Mia's the one that we want. We only needed Riley to have the baby, and it took us 12 years to get to this point, but now
yeah."
we're here. We can dispose of her. We needed her to like draw Mia back in maybe as well, but Mia is the one that we wanted all. Like it makes sense. And it's I don't know, maybe again on another rewatch once you've like fully processed the movie and you know where maybe it'll hit different the
Yeah.
third time around. But
Yeah.
when she gets torn apart by the dogs in the theater, I was like, "Are you kidding?
I was like, "Really?" And
Are you
then
joking?
the scream and then it was like over and I was like,
All right,
"What?"
bye." Yeah, Sydney was like, "I'm going to the bathroom," and I was like, "No, we have to stay. There's gonna be something."
Nothing. Just the
There
singing.
wasn't, was there?
Just the
Well, I don't
singing.
know. I guess we didn't stay long enough for the
There's a
singing,
little
but
nursery rhyme singing. I can't find a video of it, so there's no video part of it. It's just audio apparently. But if we're wrong and it changes the whole interpretation of the end, DM us and let us know. But anyway, I think it's time for our
Check 'em on toes.
amazing the straightest movie of all time. How could it be gayer? I think that it's one of those paranormal paranoids is gay already. So
I think they're two gay couples.
amazing.
Peter and David and Laura and Riley. They're all
I love that.
gaying it up out there in Ohio.
I support that and I think it's true.
Instead of sisters, they could have been like best friends that had like intense homoerotic, like,
Ooh.
you know, how women tend to have, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
Turn Robert into a woman. You still hate him, but a little less.
sexy butch woman.
Gina Gershon?
Yeah.
Corky? um okay. I know that at least incubuses and succubuses are very binary, but that doesn't mean they're not bisexual. And I think that once he's got his spawns like settled up, because he does need to like have a
You need
child
your
that can be on.
heir, but
He needs his can be on. Then I think he dabbles all around the town. He's out there,
inventing
cre-
Mpreg.
yeah,
We
doing
love
really
Mpreg
fucked
on
up
this
shit all over
podcast.
town. Oh my god.
You're telling me you're a demon and you can't be out here impregnating a man? What's the point of being a demon then?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. He's definitely doing that. He's definitely doing that. Okay. Any other gay thoughts?
So many more gay thoughts.
Okay. Oh my god, I almost skipped Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard. Where
Wow.
would we put him? I mean, he is Tarion. I don't know what to tell you. That's who's in there. I know I said it was that other guy, but it's actually Matthew Lillard.
But that was a lie.
Mm.
I was lying.
I think even if you were Robert, you'd hate Robert a little bit less. And I think he would have brought something, a tiredness to the role that's like resigned, I just can't do this anymore, as opposed to I hate your fucking guts.
I agree.
I
think
think
that would have
the
strengthened it.
interviewer lady could have been Matthew Lillard, like doing the documentary.
Matthew Lillard is looking for his next project.
Yeah,
He's
and like
playing
he could have
Matthew
just
Lillard.
played
Tarion.
himself.
Yeah.
That'd be so funny.
And then at the end, he's
Matthew
like, "Be
Lillard
real with me.
presents
I'm Matthew Lillard off the
Lillard."
record. How'd you find that house?" And she's
Yeah.
like, "I don't know, Matthew Lillard. I guess something wanted me to find it."
Exactly.
No, go with me on this journey. It would make sense because the paranormal paranoids are like the modern day mystery gang, and he's known for playing Shaggy. So it makes sense for him to be the interviewer. Whoa.
And in the beginning of the movie, he's like in character as Shaggy. He's being like, "Well,
What?
tell me about it." And then at the end, he's like, "All right, Matthew Lillard."
He's like,
here.
that was actually
Yeah.
really
Now
insensitive
we're
that
off
I
the
was doing
record,
that.
yeah,
and
sorry, I
I'm
was doing that
sorry.
voice the whole time. Now that it's just you and me here, you and Matthew Lillard.
Hey Mia, like how are you doing now that your sister's been gone for 12 years? Zoinks! Like I can't do an impression of Shaggy, and I'm sorry that I tried, and that was really bad. We have to move on because that was so bad.
Let's pretend that never happened.
We're gonna
Let's
pretend
just
it never
move on.
happened. Oof, that was really rough. Okay, dumb bitch. Whew. Robert. Anyone who didn't check that house when it was right fucking there.
Right there, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, as far as the pacing of the film, it was right there. She didn't look. If she had been really tired, she would have said, "Can I have a glass of water?" when she got to the grandma's house. In the mold house.
In the mold house. Disgusting.
Disgusting. That was fun. That was fun how they did that. Reminds me, really quick anecdote. I went to a very fun, fancy restaurant in my neighborhood, and they had like those types of plates that are like handmade and like hand glazed, and it's so beautiful, and they're like speckled or whatever. Unfortunately, the speckling on it looked exactly like black mold. And I was like, this was supposed to be like an artistic choice, but it is actually terrifying and really scary, and the last thing you want in a restaurant.
Bad for a food safe plate.
Anyway, it wasn't black mold. It was just art. So it's all good. But yeah, Robert for sure, 100% worst bad boy out there.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to our knives out of 5. So I haven't really looked at like what.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
That
didn't make it into my notes yet. Let me do that quickly.
I know it's been getting like a lot of like 10 ratings and a lot of 1 ratings, and I'm like,
oh, all over.
Yeah.
IndieWire was like, let's be real, it's mid. What does this mean for the indie film in the future? And like, this is a very existential article that I will link.
Why does this one movie have to be whatever?
We digress.
Read the article. It makes a good argument.
Okay.
Because they took a big chance on an indie for it to like, it's not gonna flop, but it's not doing that great. Like it's just like
profitable.
Might make Neon not make those same choices in the future, and so that's why a lot was riding on it, and they put so much pressure on it, which made more riding on it. So it's just rough.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't remember if it was on IMDb trivia or in one of the articles I read, but it was profitable. It's made like $4 million at least worldwide or something like that. And given that it had a $1.4 million budget plus that extra $1 million, I don't know how much gets spent on marketing, but usually that's not something that is necessarily like taken into consideration when they go, this movie cost this much to make and it made this much amount of money. So it made more money than it took to make the movie, which is a good thing. But again, if you wanted to be like blowing it out of the water, it's certainly not like a runaway hit. It felt like there was so much hype for this movie, and then once the movie came out, it was quiet. But on IMDb, this movie has a 5.8 out of 10. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 56% from critics, which is rotten, and 54% from audience, which is also rotten. So not great numbers. I don't know how I feel about this necessarily.
I know. I don't want to give it like a horrible bad grade because I feel like I love that Neon took the a chance on this. I think it's doing a lot of interesting things. I think that our conversation, though a lot of it was negative, made me like the movie more. Just because it was a fun conversation as well.
And it's like it's clear that the movie was trying to do things, whether or not it successfully accomplished them. It was taking swings. There were things that
I
they wanted to be doing that were cool.
I think it looked gorgeous. I thought it was absolutely stunning to look at.
It looked like Silent Hill a lot, I think, especially that moldy ass house reminded me of the parts in Silent Hill where like the black
Yeah.
dissolves and it goes into scary world, and the
Yeah.
underworld where it gets quite dark.
Mm.
Yeah, I love the way Tarion looked. I liked that aspect of it, but it left me wanting more. It just left me wanting more, which is good because I guess that means I wanted more of it to watch. So I would have sat there longer, but at the same time, it missed the mark and it was messy in a couple of ways, which just makes sense because of the way that it was made. Not the fact that it's an indie, but the fact that it was had like a redo later on in the process, like a new brain space coming in and changing the vibes a little bit, even though they're trying to make real what was already in the script and stuff like that. But you can tell that there's like different cooks cooking together. You know what I mean? So I don't know if this is gonna be higher than you guys. It's a loving 3.5 for me. The extra 0.5 is because let the indies continue on, and it's not a bad
Bonus
movie.
points for being an indie.
It's just not. It just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But the music was great, and I know the guy who did the music, and it was great. The music was really good, actually. It really was. Anyway,
I don't know. I was gonna give it a 3 out of 5, but for the indies, we can do a 3.5 out of 5 because like here's the thing. Even though this movie was like I've seen worse movies. Like
for
Yeah.
sure.
I wish it was a little more like I wish it went through like maybe another editing process and like honed in on even like one or two things instead of being like a found footage and a documentary and a regular movie and all this kind of stuff. Um but like I had a great time watching it in theaters. I think this would be like here's the thing. If I like when my birthday and me and all my little like 13-year-old girlfriends like went to a movie to watch a movie, we would have had a great time watching this movie and it would have
Totally.
freaked us out. And so
Totally.
like I really do hope that, and here's the thing too, like I'll watch another movie from this director because he'll probably
Totally.
learn. You know what I mean? So like I do hope that, Neon or any of the other like bigger things doesn't, shit on indie filmmakers because like there's plenty of space in horror. If they're going to do it, it can be horror, actually. Like they're cheaper to
Yeah.
make and people will still watch them.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a big
Agreed
appetite for
100%.
indie horror because
yeah.
Yeah.
there's such a charm to it, and people want to see what you can do with like spit and paper towels and ketchup from your
Yeah.
fridge.
Hot
You know what I
glue.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how we got Terrifier. But I think I'm kind of right around that same place of like I liked it more on a second watch. I I liked what I learned about it for the most part after the fact, although they're really contradicting my Robert theories, but I'm holding steady. Um
The sequel, Shelby Oaks 2, Robert's
yeah,
Revenge.
Robert's Revenge. It could be a post-credit scene could be something with Robert where he's like part of the vision. Now he comes home and he's like, I always knew we'd get, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like getting into business with a distributor like Neon both gave them the opportunity to do things they never would have been able to do with the movie and also held them back from being able to do things that you can only get away with when you're so completely indie that nobody has heard of you and nobody knows your background or anything about
Mm-hmm.
you. Blair Witch style, where it's like you can really present things and not have anything attached to you that goes, you're a real person and I know you're a filmmaker and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it helped and it hindered in ways. Um, I it that is so short. There is space in a runtime to do a little more. But I think it's interesting. I think a lot of its flaws are also part of just like the conceit of the movie. Honestly, I think it is its biggest problem is that it's forgettable. Um,
Mm,
which
yeah,
is just not a
a little too
good
jumbled to
quality
shine.
to have. Yeah, it's got a lot of interesting stuff. It's got a lot of interesting visuals and touch points, and it's pulling from a lot of different inspirations. And I think Camille, what's her name, did a great job. And I just didn't. We saw this in theaters a week ago, and then we watched it again to do this episode to be prepared and have seen it recently. And I just didn't really think about it at all in that week, other than like, oh, I have to watch this again at some point. But I wasn't thinking about like the plot of the movie or the characters. It didn't
Mm.
stay with me. But I think it is sad that it is getting the scores that it's getting. And I think it just, you got to take swings. And
Growing pains.
you gotta skill build over time. And I think that this is not a bad first film, but it wasn't a great first film either. So, I'll bandwagon, which I love to do lately, and I'll just do 3.5 as well. I love to be in
Not a bad score.
alignment. Yeah.
Not a bad score. Not a bad score. Okay. Well, next week we're doing something that I can really be excited about because I'm the only one who's seen it because it hasn't come out yet. But it came out in theaters, in select theaters. You can go to like 2 places in Los Angeles and see it. And I am underemployed, so I could make the time to get there. But for the rest of y'all, November 7th, that's when it comes out. It's already out now. I'm sorry that I'm saying this like this. Cut it out. I'm sorry. I realize that this is coming out next Tuesday. Anyway, it's Frankenstein 2025, Guillermo del Toro. I saw it. I loved it. It's 2.5 hours. Jacob Elordi, Jacob
my God.
Elordi. Oh, baby, baby, baby. Go in with an open heart and ready to have an earnest experience. Embrace whimsy, and I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about and a really fun time. I'm so excited. This is my most anticipated horror movie of the year. So
It looks like it's still in some theaters, so maybe I'll try and go
Yeah.
see it in theaters instead of just watching it on Netflix because I feel like
yeah,
that
it's
would lend
not on-
itself to that
it's not on
experience.
AMC, but I
But it
think
is-
it's playing in IMAX at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and it was at
Yeah.
the Egyptian.
It's at the Landmarks. It's at the Look Dine-In Cinemas in Glendale, which is where we saw Bones and All.
Oh, that's where I
I
ate
There we
the
go.
ate the chicken wings while I was watching cannibalism. But anyway, yeah, I recommend seeing it on a big screen if you can, but it's still gonna be great on your TV. Buckle up, get snacks. It's 2.5 hours long, but you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, I think I want to give it its best shot, and you know me, I needed 2 times for Nosferatu, so I think maybe we'll do our best to give it a
I
theater
think
go.
it's different tonally than Nosferatu. So, we'll see. We'll see. I hope that you like it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We just gave a big shout out to indie films. And why don't you say, wow, great job giving extra 0.5 to a movie you didn't like that much because you support indie films. And a 5-star review for us on Apple Podcasts. What about that? That could be pretty cool. Or you could just say, wow, I love Spooky Tuesday. Leave it at that. It is simple, simple,
Enough
simple
said.
stuff. Enough said. Also, why not follow us on social media? We're at spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we're Spooky Tuesday Pod. Go to our website, spookytuesdaypod.com, for your one-stop shop for everything Spooky Tuesday, every movie we've ever done. It's incredible. Check it out. Also, we are on Patreon. You heard us shout it out mid-episode. We're having fun, exciting discourse in there, and I can't wait to actually read what everybody said about Shelby Oaks because I wanted to be impartial. But now we can go crazy.
Now we can go discourse on the Discord.
Oh, baby. So join us. So we have a really good time in there. And also, we are on YouTube. And today, none of us are dressed up. We're just being ourselves. And
Sydney
isn't
could
that
be Riley in an alternate
exciting?
universe. I mean,
Sydney
that's
is blonde
basically
with
what.
bangs.
Bangs.
There,
Pretty
that
big,
enough said.
pretty huge,
There you go.
pretty good. Wow, that's Riley right there. Where is she? She's right
She's
here.
a YouTuber.
I
She has
found
a
her.
show on YouTube.
I found her. She's right here. Anyway. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. We love you, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.